I have filed charges against the driver, the juvenile driver of the white Land Rover. I'm going to show you the video here. You get a copy of that. One count of fleeing and eluding in the first degree. Essentially that is fleeing and eluding causing death. Okay, we charged him. We've also charged him with CCE, continuing criminal enterprises, for what occurred on this day. Both those are felony charges. What I am going to do, I'm going to ask for an adult waiver as well. They're a juvenile. I'm not going to announce it since it is a juvenile. This is not a situation where I can do an automatic waiver. Very often in homicides, rape, something like that, I can automatically waive a juvenile to the adult court. That is not the case here. I can ask the court for permission. It's called a traditional waiver. So I'll be asking for a traditional waiver on this juvenile for the fleeing and eluding and the CCE charges. So I'll get into it a little bit more. I figure this is, kind of explain my decision maybe after I show you the video. This is the in-car video of what happened on that day. To give you a little bit of background, this was probably about just before 7 o'clock. As you can see, I think it's 1856, so it's just before 7 o'clock in the evening. What preceded this, though, was a chase in Holland. The Holland police had actually chased the same Land Rover, Range Rover, however you want to, it changes around in terms of who's describing it. But they had led them on a chase. This from Holland all the way to basically the county line in Grand Rapids. And what had occurred was the deputy had caught the flock camera, had it coming across on 44th Street. So if you're coming across the state line right at Rivertown Parkway, it's very easy to get off there. You're cutting across, heading towards 131. He had information that the vehicle was coming. He knew about the chase in Holland, knew that Holland police had basically chased it all the way to the county line. And so he was picking this up at this point in time. You'll pick up the video as he's making contact with this white Range Rover as it comes up. He sideswiped him, kind of went to the side. From the evidence, I'll show you my opinion in a little bit. From the evidence, what it appears to is he caught him with the tire. From his statement, he was trying to cut him off from going into the neighborhoods in the back there. Tried to pull in front of him. Looks like the tire essentially caught his left calf, pulling off his shoe and kind of a slingshot down. You saw it was a violent fall to the ground. So that's what occurred there, and based on everything I think, if you look at it, it's not showing up there now, but he was doing about 22 miles an hour, according to the in-car video. We have no reason to disbelieve that. These cruisers are equipped with the black box, if you will, to record it, but the event is not recorded. It just didn't record enough to be able to exact from the back box. So he's doing 22 miles an hour. He also says, and from the video, I also can show you, he believes there may be a gun involved. Right there, maybe you can see right there, you can get it a little bigger, but there is a black object. It turned out to be a cell phone in his hand. But this group, they've been, quite frankly, I think the police have said, they've been trying to watch this group. The Holland police had pursued them. There had been allegations of this group being involved in stolen cars. Shots have been fired in other places, so he thought this was an armed individual running into a neighborhood, and so he made the decision to try and cut him off. He thought he had didn't think he had enough time to actually stop the car, get out. The kids had quite a bit of head start, so he tried to pull in front of him. And as you can see, he made contact at some point in time, catching him with the side of his car. I talked to the medical examiner. The medical examiner, I did talk to him after people were asking. I talked to him Friday afternoon, in terms of Friday afternoon, and trying to explain. He said there's no evidence that he was actually run over. There's nothing, in terms of crush, like his leg was crushed or anything like that. He was caught in the force. He had a broken hip. The force slammed his head to the ground, causing head injuries that caused his demise. So based on all this, based on the facts and circumstances, they did not find a basis to charge the officer. Essentially, I looked at, you look at first second-degree murder. Second-degree murder, there's an intent to kill and intent to do great bodily harm. Did not find that here quite clearly. He's going past him. He's trying to cut him off from getting into a neighborhood. Can you say that the natural tendency, the likely act, is to cause death or great bodily harm when you're trying to cut in front of somebody and stop him from going there? He clearly, if he wanted to run him over, he could have just gunned it right at him, and there's no evidence of that once again. Talking with the medical examiner, he didn't get thrown. He's at the side of the vehicle, so he didn't just run him over, so the likely intent we have for a secondary murder is not there. So I looked at gross negligence. And gross negligence is very similar. I don't use this as much, but the defendant is aware of the risk, but to the ordinary mind, it must be apparent that the likely result is to prove disastrous to another. And once again, given the speed, 22 miles an hour, he's trying to apprehend what he believes are dangerous individuals. This is not, you don't take this as just, what happens here, there's a kid running. They have run from the police in Helen just before this. They had extensive chase here. There's a possibility of guns being involved. Given the totality of the circumstances, at that speed, I can't say to the ordinary mind that death or great bodily harm is going to result. Obviously, the execution did not happen in terms of how he executed his trying to pull in front of him didn't occur properly. But the fact he's trying to do that is not enough to prove gross negligence for some sort of involuntary manslaughter charge. We did look at the reckless driving. Reckless driving is kind of the next level down. If you look at reckless driving, it's a lower standard, but once again, you look at the language there, conduct that results in a plain and strong likelihood that death or great bodily harm would result. I can't say there's a plain and strong likelihood at that speed, given the circumstances and everything like that. So we're left, once again, the only thing we have was a moving violation causing death. A moving violation causing death is kind of some sort of a civil infraction, a ticket, if you will. But when you look at the civil infraction, there is a specific statute, MCL 257-603, it kind of grants leeway to officers responding in an emergency situation. And when you're responding in an emergency situation, they can do things that we can't do or other people can't do. They can run stoplights, they can exceed speeds, they can do stuff like that. So it's hard to point at a civil infraction that he would have committed. Driving over the curb, yeah, none of us can do that. But in a pursuit, there are certain things officers can do when they're trying to apprehend what they believe at the time is a dangerous individual. So looking at all that, I did not believe there was a sufficient basis to file any criminal charges against the deputy. But that does leave the juvenile who led the police on this chase, and that's why I said we're charging him with the fleeing and eluding first. Fleeing and eluding causing death for leading the police on this chase and resulting in the death of Riley. This is a tragic situation. I met with the family. They are not happy with this decision, quite clearly. So we had a long discussion, and I'm sure they think the deputy should be charged. But based on my analysis of the law, based on everything I've looked at, I just find no basis to charge the deputy in this circumstance.